The crash wasn't supposed to happen. Then again, Marcus Webb's life had stopped following any reasonable plan the moment his merchant vessel's navigation system decided to malfunction over an uncharted sector. Now he lay sprawled beneath twisted metal and shattered cargo containers, watching purple-tinged clouds drift across an alien sky. Pain bloomed in his side, sharp and insistent. When he pressed his hand against the wound, his fingers came away slick with blood. But that wasn't what worried him most. The strange, thorny vines that had torn through the hull during impact had left scratches along his arms. And those scratches burned with an intensity that made the gash in his side feel like a minor inconvenience. Marcus tried to stand, but his legs refused to cooperate. The burning sensation spread from the scratches, crawling under his skin like liquid fire. His vision blurred at the edges, and the purple sky seemed to pulse with each labored heartbeat. He must have lost consciousness, because the next thing he knew, someone was lifting him. The touch was gentle but firm, and through his fever-addled mind, he caught glimpses of cobalt-blue skin and eyes that glowed with soft amber light. "Easy now," a melodious voice said, speaking in a language he shouldn't understand, but somehow did. "You've been touched by Spinethern. We need to move quickly." The world dissolved into fragments after that. He remembered being carried through a forest where the trees had silver bark and leaves that chimed like bells in the wind. He remembered a dwelling carved into the side of a massive tree, its interior lit by bioluminescent fungi that cast everything in gentle blue-green light. Most of all, he remembered hands, impossibly soft hands, tending to him with practiced efficiency. When Marcus finally surfaced from the fever, he found himself in a bed that seemed to be grown rather than built. Its frame formed from living wood that curved around him protectively. Soft fabric covered him, and the air smelled of herbs he couldn't name but found oddly comforting. "You're awake." The voice from before, clearer now without the fog of fever distorting it. Marcus turned his head, and his breath caught. The woman sitting beside his bed was unlike anyone he'd ever seen. Her skin was a deep cobalt blue that seemed to shimmer subtly in the ambient light, marked with intricate silver patterns that traced along her arms and neck. Those patterns pulsed faintly, like a second heartbeat made visible. Her hair fell in waves of midnight black shot through with strands of luminous silver, and her eyes held depths of amber warmth that made something in his chest tighten. She wore a simple tunic of woven fabric that shifted between green and blue, depending on how the light caught it, cinched at the waist with a belt adorned with small crystals. Everything about her spoke of elegance and grace, yet there was nothing distant in her expression, only gentle concern. "How long?" Marcus managed to croak, his throat dry as sand. 3 days, she replied, reaching for a cup on the nearby table. "The Spinethern toxin is aggressive. Most off-worlders don't survive the first night." She helped him sit up, supporting his back with one hand while holding the cup to his lips with the other. Small sips. The liquid was cool and tasted faintly of mint and something sweeter. As it slid down his throat, Marcus felt some of his strength returning. "You saved my life. That's what healers do." A slight smile played at the corners of her mouth. "I'm Seva, by the way, and you're remarkably lucky." "Stranger." "Marcus," he said, then added, "and I don't feel particularly lucky right now." "You should." Seva set the cup aside and gently pressed her fingers against his wrist, checking his pulse. Her touch sent an unexpected warmth through him that had nothing to do with fever. "Your species has an unusual resilience. Your body fought the toxin in ways I've never seen before." It was fascinating to observe. The clinical detachment in her voice when discussing his near-death experience should have been off-putting, but somehow it wasn't. Instead, Marcus found himself captivated by the way her bioluminescent patterns flickered slightly when she concentrated. the way her amber eyes caught and held the light. "How bad was it?" he asked, gesturing vaguely at his injuries. "The gash in your side required stitching, but it's healing well." The spinethorn scratches were more concerning. Seva pulled back the covering slightly, revealing his arm. The scratches had healed to thin silver lines. The toxin causes a systemic reaction. Fever, hallucinations, muscle paralysis. In severe cases, respiratory failure. Sounds delightful. "You called out several times during the worst of it," Seva said softly, her gaze flicking away for just a moment. "Names I didn't recognize. People from your world, I assume." Marcus felt a pang of something, homesickness maybe, or loneliness. Not many people would have noticed. "I notice everything about my patients." There was something in the way she said it, an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "It's important for proper care." The next few days established a routine between them. Seva would arrive each morning with breakfast, usually some kind of grain porridge mixed with fruits that tasted like a cross between strawberries and something citrusy. She'd check his wounds, change his dressings, and help him with the exercises meant to restore his strength. But it was the small moments that Marcus found himself living for. The way Seva's laugh sounded like wind chimes when he made an awkward joke about human customs. How her bioluminescent patterns would pulse brighter when she was excited about explaining some aspect of Vesseron biology. The comfortable silence that fell between them as she ground herbs for his medicine while he watched from the bed. "Tell me about your world," Seva said one evening as she helped him take his first real steps around the room. Her arm was around his waist, supporting most of his weight, and Marcus was acutely aware of every point where their bodies touched. "Earth?" Marcus shuffled forward carefully, focusing on putting one foot in front of the other. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." Seva's voice was warm with curiosity. "We get so few visitors here. The Sara is off most trade routes. Your crash was the first ship we've seen in nearly a solar cycle." "It's crowded," Marcus said, remembering the sprawling cities and endless streams of humanity. "Noisy, sometimes beautiful, often chaotic. Nothing like here. Do you miss it?" The question should have had an easy answer. But as Marcus looked down at Seva, at the way the evening light caught the silver strands in her hair, at the gentle concern in her amber eyes, he found himself hesitating. "I thought I would," he admitted. "But right now, I can't imagine wanting to be anywhere else." Seva's patterns flared brighter for just a moment, and Marcus felt an answering warmth spread through his chest. She quickly looked away, her expression becoming professional again. "That's probably just gratitude talking. You nearly died." "Maybe," Marcus allowed, though he knew it was more than that night. Unable to sleep, Marcus lay in the living wood bed and listened to the sounds of the Sara's night. Distant calls of creatures he couldn't name. The whisper of wind through those bell-like leaves, and somewhere close by, the soft sound of Seva moving through her dwelling. He touched the silver lines on his arm, where the spinethorn had scratched him, tracing their path. According to Seva, they would fade eventually, but some part of him hoped they wouldn't. They were a reminder of this place, of his brush with death, and of the woman who'd pulled him back from the edge. A soft knock came at his door. "Marcus, are you awake?" "Come in." Seva entered carrying a small luminescent globe that cast gentle light. She looked uncertain, vulnerable in a way he hadn't seen before. "I heard you moving around. Is the pain worse?" "No," Marcus assured her, sitting up. "Just thinking." She moved closer, setting the light globe on the bedside table. "About?" "About how random everything is. If my nav system hadn't failed, if I'd crashed somewhere else, if those vines had hit me differently." He met her eyes. "All the tiny chances that led to me being here, with you." Seva's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in a rhythm Marcus was beginning to recognize as emotional. I've been thinking similar things, she confessed quietly. About how unusual it is that you survived. About the statistical improbability of your species having such compatibility with our healing methods. She paused, her fingers absently tracing the edge of his blanket. About how much I've enjoyed these days with you. The air between them felt charged with possibility. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently took her hand. Her skin was warm, softer than he'd imagined, and those luminescent patterns seemed to dance where they touched. "Seva," he began, not sure what he wanted to say, but knowing he needed to say something. She squeezed his hand gently. "You should rest. You're still recovering, and I'm supposed to be maintaining professional boundaries." But she didn't let go of his hand, didn't move away. "What if I don't want you to maintain professional boundaries?" The question hung between them, bold and unmistakable. Seva's eyes widened slightly, her patterns flaring bright before dimming to a soft, steady glow. "Then," she said softly, her thumb tracing circles on the back of his hand, "we might have a problem." "Because I don't want to either." They sat like that for a long moment, hands intertwined, the luminescent globe casting gentle shadows around them. Outside, Isara's twin moons rose over the silver-barked forest. And inside, something new and fragile began to grow between a human merchant and an alien healer, neither knowing yet just how deeply their fates had become entwined. The morning sun filtered through the carved windows of Seva's dwelling, casting patterns of light across Marcus's face. He woke to find her sitting in the chair beside his bed, not sleeping, but watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Her bioluminescent patterns were dim in the daylight, barely visible traces of silver against her cobalt skin. "How long have you been there?" Marcus asked, his voice still rough with sleep. "A while." Seva didn't look embarrassed at being caught. "I was monitoring your recovery. Your vital signs are stronger this morning." "Is that the only reason?" The question was gentle, teasing. A flush of deeper blue colored her cheeks. "Perhaps not the only reason." They shared breakfast in comfortable silence, though Marcus noticed the way Seva's fingers would occasionally brush against his when passing dishes, how her eyes would linger on his face before quickly darting away. The tension from the previous night hadn't dissipated. If anything, it had grown stronger in the light of day. "I should check your wounds," Seva said finally, setting aside her bowl. Marcus nodded, removing his sleep shirt. He'd grown accustomed to her clinical examinations over the past days, but something felt different now. Each touch of her fingers against his skin seemed to carry an electric charge. When she leaned close to examine the healing gash on his side, he could smell the subtle fragrance of her skin, like night-blooming flowers and rain. "The healing is progressing remarkably," Seva murmured, her fingers tracing the edges of the wound with professional detachment that her voice didn't quite match. "Another few days, and you'll barely have a scar." "Seva," Marcus said softly, catching her wrist gently. "About last night," the door burst open with a force that made them both jump apart. A male Veseran stood in the doorway, taller than Seva, with broader shoulders and patterns that glowed in aggressive crimson against his cobalt skin. His amber eyes, so similar to Seva's yet harder, fixed on Marcus with unmistakable hostility. "Torin," Seva said sharply, standing quickly. "You can't I?" Torin's voice was deep and resonant. "When I hear rumors that my sister is harboring an off-worlder in her home? When the entire village is talking about how she's been spending every waking moment with this human?" Marcus carefully pulled his shirt back on, acutely aware of his vulnerability. "I crashed here. Your sister saved my life, and now she saved it. Time for you to leave." Torin crossed his arms, his patterns pulsing with barely controlled emotion. "He's not well enough to travel," Seva interjected, moving to stand between them. "The spinetherne toxin is still in his system. Moving him now could cause a relapse. How convenient. Torin's gaze shifted between them, and something in his expression softened slightly when he looked at his sister. Seva, please. You know what people are saying. I don't care what people say. Well, you should. Torin stepped fully into the room, closing the door behind him. You're a healer, respected in this community. Getting involved with an off-worlder, especially a human. He shook his head. Do you know what that could mean? Enlighten me, Seva said, her voice cold in a way Marcus hadn't heard before. Torin was quiet for a moment, then sighed heavily. May I speak freely? In front of him? Marcus is going to hear this eventually. He deserves the truth. The Vesseran male moved to the window, looking out at the silver-barked forest. Our people don't form casual attachments, Seva. You know this. When we bond, it's physiological, permanent. The neural pathways literally rewire. Hormonal systems synchronize. It's not something that can be undone. I'm aware of the biology, Torin. Are you aware that it's never worked with humans? Torin turned back to face them. 3 times in our recorded history, Vesserans have attempted to bond with humans. 3 times it ended in tragedy. The human biology can't sustain the connection. They sicken, fade. The Vesseran partner feels every moment of their decline until... He didn't finish the sentence. Marcus felt ice settle in his stomach. How long? The longest survived 2 solar cycles, Torin said quietly. The shortest, barely 6 lunar months. Seva's patterns had gone almost completely dark. A sign Marcus had learned indicated deep distress. Those were different circumstances. Different how? Torin challenged. Different because this time it's you? Because you've developed feelings for this stranger? His voice softened. Sister, I know that look in your eyes. I've seen it before, when you were young and thought you could save every wounded creature you found. But this isn't a forest bird with a broken wing. This is your life, your future. What about my choice? Seva's voice trembled slightly. Doesn't that matter? Of course it matters. Torin moved closer, placing his hands on her shoulders. But I won't stand by and watch you destroy yourself for a connection that's doomed from the start. Our parents would want me to be happy. Our parents would want you to be alive and whole, not grieving a bond that kills both parties involved. Marcus had heard enough. Maybe I should go. He stood carefully, still weaker than he'd like, but steady enough. I don't want to cause problems for Seva or her family. You can't go, Seva said immediately, turning to him. You're not healed. The journey back to the nearest settlement could kill you. Better than the alternative you're describing. That's not. Seva pressed her hands to her temples, her patterns flickering erratically. This is all moving too fast. We haven't even discussed what's happening between us, and now everyone is assuming... Assuming what? Torin asked. That you've already started the bonding process? Because the way your patterns respond to him suggests you have. The room fell silent. Marcus looked at Seva, seeing the truth in her expression, in the way her bioluminescence pulsed in rhythm with his own elevated heartbeat. It's true, isn't it? Marcus asked quietly. That's what you were monitoring this morning. Not just my recovery. Seva's silence was answer enough. Torin made a frustrated sound. How far has it progressed? Only the initial stages, Seva admitted. Biochemical recognition, neural synchronization beginning. Nothing irreversible yet. She looked at Marcus, her amber eyes pleading. I didn't mean for it to happen. Our biology responds to certain stimuli, prolonged contact, emotional connection, the caregiving dynamic. I should have been more careful, maintained better boundaries. This isn't your fault, Marcus said, moving toward her despite Torin's warning glare. If anything, I pushed for more closeness. Because you didn't know what it meant, Torin interjected. Because she didn't tell you that every touch, Every shared moment was building toward something you can't survive. You don't know that, Seva argued. Marcus's body fought off spinethan toxin that should have killed him. His resilience is extraordinary. Maybe isn't good enough. Torin's patterns flared bright crimson. This isn't a research project, Seva. This is your life, his life. You can't gamble with that on a maybe. Marcus felt torn between the growing feelings he couldn't deny and the very real concern in Torin's voice. The Vesseron male wasn't being cruel. He was trying to protect his sister from heartbreak or worse. What if we don't continue the bond? Marcus asked. If it's only in the initial stages, can it be stopped? Theoretically, Seva said slowly. If we maintain distance, avoid physical contact, suppress the biochemical triggers, it should fade within a lunar cycle. Should, Torin repeated. Seva, you're already too far in. Your patterns respond to him even when you're not touching. That's not early-stage bonding. Then what do you suggest? Seva's voice broke slightly. That I turn him out before he's healed? Let him die in the forest so I don't have to face this choice? Of course not. Torin's expression softened. I suggest we consult the elders. Neres has studied interspecies biology for decades. If anyone would know whether this could work, it would be her. The suggestion hung in the air. Marcus could see Seva warring with herself, pride fighting against pragmatism. Neres is also the most traditional of the village council, Seva said quietly. She forbid any further contact. Maybe that's for the best. How can you say that? Seva's patterns flared bright with emotion. You've seen how rare connection is, how precious. To just abandon it because of fear. Fear keeps us alive, Torin countered. Fear of fire prevents burns. Fear of heights prevents falls. Fear of impossible bonds prevents living, Marcus finished quietly. Both Thesserons turned to look at him. I've spent my life moving from place to place, never staying long enough to form real connections. Always telling myself it was safer that way, easier. And maybe it was. But it was also lonely and empty. He looked at Seva. These past days with you have been the most alive I've felt in years. If there's even a chance this could work, shouldn't we try? And if it kills you both? Torin demanded. Then at least we tried, Seva said softly, her eyes never leaving Marcus's face. At least we didn't let fear make our choices for us. Torin looked between them, his patterns cycling through various colors before settling into a resigned amber. You're both fools, he said, but there was affection beneath the frustration. But you're my sister, Seva, and I suppose if you're determined to walk this path, the least I can do is make sure you do it with all the information available. You'll take us to Neres? Seva asked hopefully. I'll take you to Neres, Torin confirmed. But I'm warning you both, if she says this is impossible, if the biology doesn't support it, you need to accept that and let each other go. Agreed? Marcus looked at Seva, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in her eyes. The sensible thing would be to agree, to accept the expert's judgment. But something in his chest, some instinct that went deeper than logic, rebelled at the thought of walking away from this connection. Agreed, Seva said, though her voice trembled slightly. Agreed, Marcus echoed. As they prepared to visit the elder, Marcus caught Seva's hand one more time. She squeezed back, her patterns pulsing in that rhythm that seemed to match his heartbeat. Whatever the elder said, whatever the biology dictated, he knew one thing with certainty. What was growing between them was real and worth fighting for, even if that fight seemed impossible to win.